Okay, so this is the way I put a link in the chat for this, but this is where all the resources for the survey are and the data collection and reporting tool. Just to give, I don't know where to put my notes. I don't know where I put it down. Just to let you know why we do what we do is one is we try to make it as easy as possible, but I know per the Zoom poll that people think that it may be difficult to collect the data. So the data that we collect is based on the EEOC guidelines that they give for, I think it's federal agent, for federal contractors like over 50 or organizations over 100. And I realize when people do that, they don't necessarily disaggregate into the communication function, but because there are a lot of organizations are used to collecting data that way, then that's why we do it. And I don't think the EEOC, like the race categories, are the best, but that is just that we didn't want anything that was sort of inconsistent with what some organizations were currently doing. So just a couple points to make is what is different about ours, which is very minor from the EEOC data collection, is we don't collect gender differences. And the reason why we don't is because the mission of DAA is focused on race. I, of course, believe that, of course, there are differences when you look at gender and race, but it's not the function when the group got together with the mission. The other thing that we do different is we do pull out the top communicator. So where the levels, I'll just show you the levels. So then you're like, what is she talking about? We ask questions about the different job categories and, oh gosh, okay. The different job categories, which are here. And this is pretty much the executive levels, mid-levels, those are EEOC. But we did dig in a little more to give more PR specific. As Carmela said, this is just US-based employees, and it's just in the comms function. The one thing we do pull out is this top communicator, leader in communication. So if someone reports that, hey, they have 10 people in the executive senior level offices and managers, then we ask them to pull out one person, that top person, and put them in the top communicator category. So that executive number then becomes 9. So it's a very easy sort of switch, but we're really looking for the one person who either leads an organization, a nonprofit, or corporate communication function. The reason why we do that is because the research tells us that if you look at just overall without differentiating into different categories, that typically the most diverse will be at the bottom. And you see the research going from entry to mid-level, which is why we do pull that top communicator out so we can see where it is in leadership. I believe the data from the 2019 time period, it was like 93% were white at the top. And then it goes to 87% at the executive level. So that's why we pull the top communicator. So the other thing that we have are race categories, and that is also from EEOC guidelines. I did not write this, so don't blame me for some of the inadequacies of it. Because one of the things that the EEOC does do is they count Hispanic or Latino as part of like a race category. So if you are Hispanic and Black, then you would go under 2 or more races at the bottom. And it doesn't, we don't ask like for people to give that information. So that's that. And the other thing that, just so everyone's clear, like we aggregate the data. So we don't call anyone out. We don't shame anybody. We don't put them on top list and bottom list. It really is so we can get an idea of where we are as an industry and where we are in different types of organizations. Maybe the nonprofit field is doing well, or maybe small agencies are doing better than large agencies. And also just to make, and we're also not here to like shame people, or we just want to have some sort of benchmark so we can see the growth in the industry. So what I wanted to briefly, I'll show you the tool, but I just want to go over like a step of, if I was going to do this and collect the data, how I would do it. So I do have on the site a tool that's like a sample survey of how to collect the data. One of the differences between, and I think this may be confusing for some people, is that when we're collecting this data, it's not anonymous for your employees. So when you hire somebody and you have to fill out the form, it is anonymous and they're like, I don't want to fill it out. With this type of data, we want to assign a race to specific people. And this is the same thing that the EEOC does. So if I send something to my colleague, Anitra, and she fills it out, and I'm like, Anitra, can you please fill out this form? She would put her name on it, right? I have on here current job title. That way, you know what level she is. If she's senior level, which she is, then like she would fill all this out. What the EEOC also does, and what we do have in our description and our FAQs, if Anitra decides not to tell me, then I have to fill in the blanks. I have to use, it could be visual cues, it could be based on the name and or even just talking to her and knowing her. And then I would fill that out for her. So each person within the comms function would have an assignment of their race and ethnicity. So I'm going to show, and then to make this easy, I also designed this fancy Excel spreadsheet that I put together in like 2 minutes. And all the people I hire, last name Smith. So I thought that was very impressive as well. And what this is, it's a way to sort of track people year over year. So if you have a comms function with 50 people and you have very little turnover, then you could turn in something very similar year over year to make it easy. So here, if Joanna Smith is the top communicator, I classify her according to her level, I classify according to race, and I classify according to if she's been promoted in that previous year. Then I just have to add and delete employees year after year. I don't have to send Anitra a survey again. I've already made that assessment. She will not receive a survey from me. And then I can just add people to the bottom or delete them for year over year. This is really easy to do when you have a smaller comms function. We've had people say to us, like, they're not even really sure how many pews in their comms function. I don't know. And so that makes it super challenging. And I know we have like agencies, large agencies, I see Heather on here that, have multiple employees. So I feel like, that for them, it's definitely harder, but they typically have it already collected with what they do. So then what you can do then is you can easily fill it out. So if, say, for example, I'm going, and I'll show you, don't worry, I'll show you the survey, but if you go to each bucket, you would say, all right, first I'm going to look at senior level, and you just filter into senior level. And then you could say, all right, here's my senior level. Here's what I can enter this in for the white and black category for senior level. And then I can go and filter in the next one and so on. And then I write no promotion. So what we do collect is, number one, what is the current makeup and look of the department by race? And then number two, were there any promotions in the calendar year for the year before? The one thing I do ask, and this is, I know this sounds silly, but just encourage people to read some of I shouldn't even say this, like making sure that this is really important to read through before people start. A lot of the questions that we get are actually in the instructions. And as someone who's taught in college, it's kind of like, I know David can agree, it's sort of like reading the syllabus. So let's make sure like, whoever's reading it does the instructions, because you cannot leave anything blank. You cannot leave anything blank. So if you didn't have any employees, you have to do 0, right? And that's it, 0. So you can't leave any blanks. And here's the top communicator level, number of total employees, and then Hispanic, Latino, white, black, or African-American all the way through. These two levels look at the current race, ethnicity of employees. I would love to have this on one row. It doesn't. Still Go survey said, no, you can only have stacks of, if you have more than 5 columns, it says no. You have to put it in 2 rows. So the other thing that is, your number of total employees should be if you added all the different categories together. So I do check that. And if you don't want me to email you, because I can be annoying, then please I know I have trustees on this call who know this for sure, that you can add all those together and it should fit. The other thing I have here is this person should only be one person. You should only have one top communicator. And I get it that some agencies you have senior, but the person who is like CEO, president in charge is the one who should be the top communicator. It should be one person. Otherwise, you're going to get an email from me. And then this category here is the advancement or promotion numbers. That is for that calendar year before, how many people were promoted. And I know that takes a little extra work, and it's not something that the EEOC does, but it's also important to track because that helps us also look at year over year. So one of the reasons why I'm not asking how many people left your organization as another whole category, because if this is filled out properly, then I can look at year over year changes and transitions and what is the, God, I can't think of the word, when people, the exit rate, that's the wrong word, but you know what I'm saying. And then that's it. And then just ask like some general demographic questions. And then what I do is I export that directly from SoGo survey and I put it in SPSS, which is on my computer, and then I run the data. The only reason why we have the names tied to it in the initial phase is so we can track you if you don't fill out your data. We don't use any of the names in the analysis or anything like that because we track the type of organization and that's what we care about. So that is not stored. I'm trying to think if I missed anything. Oh, and then when you collect the data, like make this super easy on yourself. I had that form, that Word form, just take that and insert it into like a SurveyMonkey or Qualtrics. And then when people fill that information, you just download it into a spreadsheet, like an Excel file, and you don't have to like manually input people's names. But you do have to track, if Anitra didn't fill out the form, then you do have to track that. I would have to email her multiple times. She would never do that, by the way. She's super responsive, but yes. The other thing, I'm trying to think what I missed. And I am a resource. Anitra is a resource at IPR. We are happy to help you to fill out the data. And Carmela knows where to find me. So, oh, by the way, one thing I didn't say that is in my notes is, oh, we do have a report that we launched. So if you haven't seen it, you should take a peek at it. I can drop that in the chat too. But we do, and especially I see David on the call, and is that we do track different for academic institutions. So if David wanted to report his data at Temple, then he would fill out a different form because the professor ranks, you know, are so different than when you're getting to entry level, mid-level. So we did try it and it didn't work because people were, it was just not pretty. So the academic institutions that are not comms functions, but more of like the departments of, you know, professorships, that is a different survey that can be found on the form. So we have collected, as Carmela said, data as of 2020, data as of 2019, and we'll be adding 2021 very soon. I'll put that on my to-do list. So I feel like I'll stop sharing. I feel like I talked a lot.
No, I think you covered everything. So really the next piece is just to get any additional questions that might have come out of this. I'm going to stop recording now.